Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition, the Thursday edition of Maximum Growth Live. I am Jay Ruane, CEO of FirmFlex, social media marketing agency for lawyers, as well as Ruane Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm in Connecticut. And across the way, down south to me at least, Seth Price over there. He is the founder and CEO of Blue Shark Digital, as well as the managing partner of Price Benowitz, which is a law firm of now 50 lawyers, 100
40.
lawyers, a million,
40
lawyers. But you touch
enough.
everything. You do family, PI, criminal defense, key tam. I saw something come up this week, and I referenced your key tam guy. I was a lawyer for 20 years before I knew what key tam was, and only because I got to meet Tony in your office, which was awesome. But how are you doing this week? You know, we got another lovely week.
Look, it has definitely, for me, the intersection of homeschooling and the togetherness. I'm normally on the road, a couple days a month, and that togetherness, it's not nothing. So, business wise, I feel like the weather is starting to turn. People are sort of anticipating being inside for the foreseeable future. And, I'm seeing some cracks. I'm trying to keep everything together.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing. I think I told you we're in the middle of a kitchen renovation. So we're basically living on a hot plate in our living room right now. It's been an incredibly stressful time with the kids at school, and every day there's another email from the school that somebody else has tested positive, and they're doing contact tracing. It's a crazy world. If we had talked a year ago that this would be our year, I don't think any of us in our wildest imaginations could have come up with it. I mean,
it's so frustrating. We were jamming, we were building, we were growing. We had, we had systems in place, and while the systems theoretically still work, it's not the same. Like, we had built them for the pre-pandemic world, and we're having to pivot, and we're doing it. But definitely frustrating about what could have been. Hopefully, get back there soon.
I am hoping for that as well. But talking about systems, we actually have somebody on our show today who does a lot of work with systems. And, and we talk about this a lot on the show because we are about growing your firm. And if you have listened to any of our prior broadcasts, you will definitely see a recurring theme, and that is the role of systems in any organization that really wants to grow. And so, Seth, why don't you tell everybody who's listening today about our guest today, because I think it's there's going to be some good topics that we can talk about with her when it comes to running your practice.
No, Kristen David, just awesome. One of those special people you meet once every once in a while, and she's created this organization, Up-Leveling Your Business, with coaching in the different areas that law firms need. She's done it over the last 14 months, grown from her to, I think, 6 coaches and 16 employees. And let's get her out here so we can talk and get into the weeds of how she sees law firm growth and what works and what doesn't.
I love that. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do a quick break, hear from our sponsors. Of course, we are sponsored by Maximum Lawyer Media as part of the Maximum Lawyer podcast. You can always hear our program syndicated on the Maximum Lawyer podcast, as well as our standalone podcast anywhere you can listen to the podcast of your choice. But we'll take a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll have Kristen with us, and we're going to be talking systems. We're going to be talking about growth. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that can help your practice. So hang tight. We'll be right back, folks, and we'll see you in a few.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
We are back. Kristen, David, great to have you here. Up-leveling your business. Amazing to have you here. I have gotten to know you over the last several years as somebody who cares more about helping law firms grow and happiness of lawyers than just about anybody. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, guys.
You have seen the inside of more law firms, and our mission here, Jay and I, is to help lawyers figure out what are the impediments to growth. How can they get there? And, from your point of view, what do you see? What prevents law firms from growing?
Well, I have my top three, and this is a little bit based on 15 years as a legal malpractice defense attorney going into hundreds and hundreds of law firms. But also in working with law firms and helping them grow. So real quick, the top three are: number one, they've got to get organized with their policies and procedures and systems. Jay and I could riff on this for a long time.
I think we talked for an hour last week, just nerding out over systems. Let me show you my system. Let me show you my system. It was kind of like two dorks really, really getting into the weeds on systems. So it was a lot of fun for me.
But it's so important. It's just, it helps set the right stage so that businesses can grow. Number two is their financial controls. We've all been there. Without good financial controls, money comes in and money goes right back out. Money comes in and money goes right back out. And so if you want to grow a business, you've got to do it profitably and you've got to pay attention to your numbers. So that's number two. And number three is, you got to get a marketing assistant to start helping you crank that marketing wheel, because as owners, we have a bunch of time, we market, and then we get busy doing all the legal and managing staff, and then the marketing goes to.
And then now you're talking my language.
Exactly.
Through to a 50-person staff. So I get it. Look. There's a great outline for what we could talk about. Let's talk about the beginning. Look, no argument. Systems are essential for running a business, big or small. But when you're getting going and you don't quite know what to do yet, this is sort of where Jay and I sort of have a back and forth. Where do you figure out? Do you get things done and then write it down, or Jay's philosophy is create the system and then have people do it? Where do you sit?
In the middle, probably. Because reality is you just have to hire people, and you literally, when I ran my law firm, I would give each person a spiral notepad back then, and they had to write down everything they were learning each day. And at the end of each day, they had to write out 2 policies and procedures based on what they learned. So literally, it's the same thing with our onboarding checklist today that I give to lawyers and business owners. It's, if you don't have it written, do it verbally and have it transcribed. And then next time you have something down as a base. So you sort of just kind of build as you go if you have to.
Well, look, that brings up a couple points, which I struggle with, which is, one thing is when you hire somebody, we talk about that. A lot of people on our show are hiring people, are they getting their bookkeeper? Are they getting their intake person, et cetera? But what I have sort of subscribed to the philosophy is the first person you hire probably isn't right. The second person you hire probably isn't right. And the third person you hire is probably, hopefully, God willing, the person you're going to build and grow with. That said, if you have persons 1 and 2, you're smiling. So at some level you've seen this. So because you don't know what you need. So if those early people are creating your systems through, writing these things down and sort of figuring out these processes, is that sort of hamstringing you because you may not have the right people on the bus, to quote Jim Collins, yet, we're sitting there with the defective people creating your systems when you really want number 3 who's not yet been hired.
So this is why we call it there's the hire and hope strategy, which is hire and hope to hell they know what they're doing. Never a good strategy. So a little bit of idea of what you want this person to do. And listen, it's not going to be perfect, the first set of policies and procedures, but each iteration is going to get better. And if you, the owner, or someone that knows how to do the task, is explaining to the assistant, this is what we call the buy, don't rent their brain model, where don't just rent their brain for the day or the week or the 2 weeks that they last and then have to start all over from scratch. Kind of like when you pay rent every single month and you pay rent, but then at the end, there's nothing left. You buy a house, you pay, you have an asset left at the end. So in those 2 weeks, maybe you've covered 10 policies and procedures. You find it's not the right person. You cut bait. The first thing you do is you bring the next person in and you say, here's a red pen. Make these better, or tell us where you don't understand the process. And so you help them be empowered to make it even better the second time through.
And look, but I'm going to push back on this a little bit, because again, this is my personal pain, which is I now have number two, who may or may not be the right person, who is now editing people by nature, especially if it's not the senior people. You're starting out, you don't have your pick of the litter necessarily, maybe a little bit more now, but these people are now say, whenever you give somebody something, it's sort of like, stare decisis, like it's there, it's been done. So what, yes, you're saying you can change it, but that is now the baseline. And that's sort of my personal pull and tug about when you do this. I probably wait too long. I'd argue that if you put, it's sort of when you're doing a business deal, if every deal gets papered from day one, you'd never do anything. Whereas if you start down a road with somebody on a handshake and figure out at some point when you would get it papered, God bless. If you never get it papered, bad. But if everything got papered day one, you'd spend all your money on lawyers or lawyering to get stuff and you'd never actually move anywhere. Yes, you can tell somebody it's okay to change, but it's a lot hard, blank slate, or here are the 5 things I know I want you to do. That's sort of the struggle, at least I've seen internally. Jay, I love your thoughts, because, I know you're much more aggressive in getting these things systematized, but I feel like if I wouldn't get to try many of the things I've ended up trying if I didn't give a little bit of a leash and say, hey, here's your desk, here's what we need accomplished. I know that I'm doing exactly the bad thing you just mentioned before, which is just hoping. At the same time, I wouldn't have gotten where I had I not sort of had these little incubator situations where you can't wake up in the morning and say, I know this person's going to fail. But if you don't, anyway, Jay.
So, and here's the thing, and maybe Kristen can speak a little bit to this. I think it depends on who you have in the seat, and when you give him that pen, because for me, and I don't know, maybe Kristen can speak to this. I have run into probably 100 lawyers myself who tell me about their marketing manager. Well, he or she's also my receptionist, but their signature says they're my marketing manager. And I'm thinking to myself, what background do they have in marketing a service-based law firm? I mean, I understand that you want them to do some marketing for you, and maybe it's posting some stuff on social media, and maybe it's stuffing envelopes for a mailer. But I have a comfort level with my director of marketing who does my stuff, because she is an accomplished and seasoned content writer, and she knows what's in her wheelhouse, and she knows when to delegate stuff that's not in her wheelhouse. But so many lawyers, they want the status of being able to say, well, I have a marketing director, and it's the 10 hours a week that the receptionist is not answering the phone. So that, I think it really comes down to who's in that seat. And can you trust?
So why don't we jump to number 3? Why don't we jump to Kristen's number 3 point, which we actually, this segues perfectly in. Okay. So marketing manager, the irony that I had, and sort of my story, as you know, is anybody good was doing digital. Anybody I got in, I could make, okay, here's another person, another salary. I could make, 7x their salary, putting them in digital. I kept hiring and hiring and hiring, and, spun out at 8 people and now have like 50 doing digital. I believe, and I think I struggle with this as well, that internal marketing person, not somebody who is an SEO genius or a TV genius or even a social. The idea is how, that is, I'll throw this out there to you. To me, that is one of the hardest hires, despite all my success, that I've not had a great success with.
Okay. So let me clarify one part. The first marketing hire is a low-level marketing assistant. They do not have a fully developed marketing director brain. They are merely an executor. They are get a newsletter out, get 15 social media posts out every 2 weeks, get, basic elements. As you grow your business, I tend to think your next marketing hire is a client happiness coordinator, because as an owner, you want to do all those follow-up calls with your clients, make sure you check in, take care of them, but we just frankly lose the amount of time. So for 5 to 10 hours a week, a client happiness coordinator is like one of the most powerful people you can have on your team. And you can train them up to learn how to handle so many things with client happiness. As you get that corner towards $1 million, $800,000, $1 million for law firms, a little different for the dentists and chiropractors and people I work with. But, between that $1 and $2 million mark for a law firm, that's when you need a marketing coordinator. See, owners aren't ready to give away the whole marketing director position because the owner still isn't mature enough to hand that off yet. They're still doing, thinking up the ideas and doing that. What they need is somebody that's going to orchestrate and work with all the vendors and compile all the information. So between the marketing assistant at the bottom and marketing director at the top is a marketing coordinator, which I think is getting more towards what you're talking about. And you do have to find the right brain. You do have to find the right person. That may not be the first marketing person you hire coming straight out as you're growing. But, everybody's growing differently. I knew I'm growing a multi-million-dollar business. So I'm adding people fast. So but I know who I hire. I mean, I've mapped out for the next 18 months exactly who I'm hiring every step. So I know with new level, new devil, who you're going to need, when I need an in-house controller, when I need, a full-on professional COO. You've got to have a game plan. And if you want to grow fast, you've got to be in front of the plan, not playing catch up all the time.
I get and love the idea of the happiness success person, because that to me also dovetails into the review side, which dovetails into the SEO world. So God bless, right? And I think that's the hot topic. John Fisher's spoken a lot about it. Look, with the economy, Four Seasons employees don't have jobs anymore. What better customer service training is there? Great. But this is the struggle. Let me take you back one. So you're saying that first hire. Very often, if the lawyer doesn't know what to do, they're figuring this out. How do you get that assistant to execute? If it's the blind following the blind, I know there are people out there with playbooks that they can, watch webinars and get a playbook. But really, each person is different. How do you figure out how to best utilize the person's time when you yourself don't really know what's going on? And this is, with all of us, and Jay can speak to this, until you get to a certain level, you can't afford the brains that really know what's going on. And so, you may never get to that point where it's better off that you just get your systems and what you want somebody to do, but figuring that out is not nothing.
Okay, so, and I'll let Jay tie in here too, but I'm chuckling over here because last May or April, I was having a discussion with Brett Tremblay of Get Staffed Up, and he said, Kristen, I keep placing marketing assistants, and these lawyers and business owners don't know what to do with them. And I said, I could solve that. So I created the how to hire, onboard, and work with a marketing assistant. And it actually teaches the 8 marketing activities this person should crank on their own with minimal supervision. But it also says, okay, owner, here's the mindset of how you train them and hold them accountable so you get results. And I think a lot of attorneys, I didn't learn in law school how to actually manage a person, how to set the KPIs or a scorecard. But I've learned over the years, and it's one of our best-selling packages because it's like in a box, less than 3 hours. I'm a big fan of bite-sized nuggets. Teach it, let them start doing it. And all the done-for-you policies and procedures, because it's all about fast tracking the build. It's about not having to start from scratch. Jay, I was going to ask you, how often do you start 100% from scratch on some of your systems builds versus swipe filing or taking components from different things or riffing off of something else you've built to start the base and get going, right?
Yeah, I would say it's probably 50-50. Some things I got to build from scratch, and some things I'm going back in and say, okay, I've got the foundation. I just need to tweak it to move it to the next level.
But one of the things, at present company not included, I'm a huge fan. I think you rise above much of what's out there in the marketplace. But I really struggle because if I had done that, and for the people that have been out there over the last 12 years that said, here's your turnkey solution, a lot of it was really not up for prime time, in my opinion. Maybe it was fine for that $0 to $600,000 firm, but that, so much stuff depends on the type of law, and yeah, Jay.
So, and Seth, this is something that's, I agree with you. Something, it is definitely something that depends on the type of law. But, one of the things that you always preach to me is there are some simple, fundamental SEO things that so many law firms get wrong that if you just do those right, you're going to be far ahead of the competition. And I think, the system in a box type of idea is really telling you, reach out to the people who refer you cases. Make sure you stay top of mind with them. Get those reps in and make that muscle memory part of your DNA, and then you can take it to the next level. There's no point, there would be 0 point for a young law firm to say, we're starting a podcast that's going to bring in 5 different lawyers and talk about different topics if they don't have a way to monetize their existing client base and their referral network, because
Well,
you're shooting
but
for the moon without having gas in the tank.
Well, right, but look, this is something for a lot of people that are B2B lawyers or a B2C using part of I don't want to say the playbook, lowercase p, not your playbook, but the idea being one of the things. Look, I've had probably, if I truth be told, more turnover with the marketing assistant. It's probably this awful person at the top of the pyramid that they have to deal with. But the thought is that when you do that and you have the person, we can sort of agree that those first hires aren't going to stick necessarily, but if they're the ones who are out there now, in a perfect world, they're just facilitating, let's say, the J coffees. But if they're out there doing things, a lot of people are like, hey, I'm in court, this person's going to go build these relationships, and then they're gone. Does that goodwill go with them? It's better than nothing, but it's not ideal if you every 6 months give them a new face they have to deal with as a referral partner.
And I think you touched on, this is why it's important to build the team and the brand and the, even though it might be Mary one day out connecting with them and Susie the next, month, at least we have like that relationship with the business, with the firm, with the whole team, not just one human. And so you're always building that team approach to kind of deal with that. People will come and go.
Especially early.
Especially early. But Seth, I would push back and say, it's important to have somebody setting up those coffees, but still you got to make the time to do the coffee and create the relationship. If that's the way you're going to generate business.
But a lot of people don't. A lot of people use this person. And Kristen, I'd love you to weigh in. That is the perfect way. But for those people that don't have the extra bandwidth, they could do at 1 coffee a week, whereas this person could do 3 a day in theory. If it's, let's say, a PI shop visiting chiropractors, it's not going to be you going. It's going to be somebody else. Now, just in general, part of it's you have to start somewhere. If you don't start, then you got nothing. Yeah. So, you get the person, and let's say the person does it for 6 months and then leaves. Half those places will leave with her, spiritually, and half won't. But it's better than not having done anything at all. That's sort of the back and forth. How do you, Jay?
But Seth, I think this is part of Kristen's, her system, right? Includes those KPIs, so if you're getting a return on that investment with this person, and so that's. That's where the genius of her type of system. You have something to measure it against, and you could stand on the shoulders of all those other lawyers and law firms that have gone before that she's worked with. So that's.
Can you really? That's one of the things I see when I look in as a digital agency owner, and I see the in-house people, usually a little bit more mature marketing people, and you have owners of law firms looking at what's the ROI of my marketing person. It's pretty hard because there's so many touches that bring in referrals. So how do you that? I find it to be one of the hardest things.
It's turning into a Tuesday show where we fight, Seth.
Yeah.
And Kristen has to be Mills Lane in the middle, keeping us from beating each other up. Okay, so Kristen, let's get back to you, and because
but I want to, Jay, can we just but this is a real thing. How you just brought up KPIs for marketing people. To me, that's one of the hardest things to pass. It's not like it's pay-per-click where you get an ROI. You're basically just getting a name out there over time, building relationships. How do you talk to a business owner about, can I see an ROI for somebody in the first few hires of marketing?
So absolutely you can, whether it's that low level marketing assistant and you set it up that they're going to, like my marketing assistant goes on to Instagram for me. and she posts 3 times a day through Meet Edgar. It's all scheduled, but she goes on for 10 minutes every morning and engages people, follows, likes, comments. She has verbiage that's very similar to mine, that's like safe words to use and how to appropriately tie it in. So she's actually like building and growing my Instagram following. And we spent all second quarter focused on marketing strategies for Instagram, taught her and trained her up. And now we're getting 4 to 5 leads a week off Instagram. Wow. We used to just get lots of likes. We wanted to go from likes to leads. So we put into place the things that needed to be done. And wow, it's been successful. Now she has KPIs every week, every day, every week, every month, and she has to turn those in. And it's kind of like, if your goal was to do 10 and you only did 9, what the heck? Like, you're on notice that you're on the brink of getting cut if you can't follow your basic KPIs. It's the same with a client happiness coordinator. You need to get so many testimonials. You need to repurpose so many testimonials each week, each month, each quarter. You need to do so many phone calls. You need to do so many reach out, send out cards. You need to do, you just go down the list. And my scorecard has actual goal, so that way I remember what the hell the goal was, not just what they're telling me they did. And so now some weeks they might say, yeah, Kristen, I sent out 8 testimonials. We only got 2 back or 3 back. Okay. As long as you stay on par and at the end of the month end up strong, we're good. But now they know, are they getting an A or are they flunking, right? Like, they know their own scorecard of if they're doing a good job. So I'm a big fan. You can turn almost anything into an objective. Are you hitting this milestone? Yes or no? Like, you just have to, owners are scared. No judgment. I didn't know. And I was scared as a kid, as a young lawyer, to like put down my expectations and to hold people accountable to them. But you've got to, that's part of growing up and being a business owner. So you got to start somewhere.
Jay?
So, Kristen, I have a question for you about that. You talk about having a team member who's reaching out to clients just to check in with them, that type of thing, right? That's part of that job. Say I have 1,000 former clients, which I think is reasonable for a lawyer who's been in the game for 5 or 6, 7 years. What's a reasonable volume for somebody? Because I want them to identify, wow, if I have a person in this position and they're making, 100 calls a week, 250, if this is their job, right? Can they touch all 1,000 clients that you've had every month? Is that something that's reasonable, or is it like they can maybe handle 10 calls a day? What's a reasonable expectation for somebody in a position like this?
I think it depends on how many hours. I mean, full-time versus, like, a lot of people, it's just 20 hours a week. And people don't always want to hear from their lawyer's office every single month. So it's maybe of those 1,000, your goal is to touch 333 each month of the quarter, so that you've touched everybody at least one phone call per quarter, and you supplement with an e-blast, a send out card, something that connects with them. That's a little, call us old school, but send them an old school snail mail gift. Like, sometimes you just have to kind of mix it up a little and have a little fun and be human and connect and build that rapport again. And so, listen, maybe they don't hit all 333 in a month. If you figure there's 30 days, but really there's only 20 business days, they're popping with phone calls. They're making, but even if they just give the gift of leaving a voicemail, hey, this is Kristen. I'm just calling from such and such law firm. I'm just calling. We'd like to check in with our best clients. Make sure you're well taken care of. Listen, there's no problem with your case. Seriously, just wanted to see how you're doing. Give us a call back. I'll try you again next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Even if they never connect, they at least have that feel good feeling that, wow, now they're sitting at a dinner party and their buddy's bitching that their lawyer won't ever call them back. And they're like, oh, my lawyer proactively calls me all the time. And they're like, well, shit, I need your lawyer. I mean,
I like that.
it's now they're marketing and talking about you while you're sleeping.
Yeah, I like that. So, Kristen, okay, so now you've had your business growing now for about 14, 15, 16 months, right? You were, you've had a number of different iterations in your career. You had your law practice, then you worked with another law practice management organization. At some point, you said, I'm going to do this for myself, right? And you said, if I want to get to where I want to be, if I want to grow to where I want to be, I need to do it myself. What was the spark that lit that fire in you? Was it, I see a different way to go, or I want to control my own destiny? What was it that made you say, it's time for me to be my own, sail my own ship type of thing?
Well, I'm fiercely loyal, and it takes me several months to kind of get to that position where I'm ready to make a firm decision. It took me 4 or 5 months to make the decision to sell my law firm. And then once I made the decision, it was like, okay, here's what we have to do. And now I have a whole package on how to sell a law firm because I've helped so many people do it. But with moving this last time, I was also, as well as legal malpractice defense, I did medical malpractice defense in the state of Oregon. And so all these doctors and surgeons and chiropractors and dentists kept asking me, when are you going to come help us grow our business? Because I was just working with lawyers. So A, there was like this whole audience that was begging me for help. And B, frankly, I missed being an entrepreneur. I missed managing, like when you help someone else build up a multi-million-dollar business, that's fun. But there's something about being your own entrepreneur, taking your own risks, and knowing that you can pivot when you need to, and it's fully your decision. So yes, it took a little bit of time, several different factors, but I really did miss being an entrepreneur. And I got so excited again with the idea of building a multi-million-dollar business, creating a platform with all these different coaches to help people where they need help. And that's the other part of what we do is many programs are very cookie cutter. You all go through the same thing. We have a marketing coach. We have a sales coach. We have a culture coach. So if you come in and you're already, most of my clients are between about $1 and $6 million. So they're not at 200,000. They're like, they come in, they're like, we got our financial controls in place. We need help with the culture and the turnaround, the turnover in the office. Or maybe they're at $1 million and they got there, but they don't know how and they have no marketing systems. And so our marketing coach will come in. Seth, you'll love this. The first thing she does is an SEO audit and helps them see where most of them have some pretty cruddy vendors out there. And she often says, like, here's what you have to do to fix it, or B, you need to just go get a new vendor. You need to pivot and get somebody good. Because I think there is the SEO portion, but a lot of times business owners have grown fast and they need to refine their message. But again, sorry, Jay, back to your point of growing fast, and I wanted to create a platform of coaches that can help people and meet them where they are for just a month or 2 months with the marketing coach, then move to 2 months with the sales coach and train up a salesperson, and then go to the, mix and match with what you need rather than just be stuck with one person. So it's working beautifully. It's working great.
And that goes to counter sort of what I talked about, which is, you alluded to it, the idea that there are organizations, not necessarily the one you came from, but in general over time, where everything goes through the same process. And it's like people have different strengths and weaknesses. Something we speak a lot about here is that we do what we like to do. Jay clearly likes to do certain things. What he doesn't like to do either doesn't get done or gets shifted to like the
SEO.
Right. So the idea being that, like, the fact that you're sort of like playing whack-a-mole, saying, let's get this built up because this is your pain point, I think is brilliant. Talk to us about the sales process, because that's something that both your prior organization, it sounds like you have, sort of counter to traditional law firm philosophies, and something, look, intake, I think that, like, we try to do it as well as anybody, but as we've scaled with a 12-person intake team, it is freaking miserable. Personality clashes, people having bad days, COVID hasn't helped, the emotional road, all this stuff, managing people who are trying to be the face of your firm. And talk to us about how you see that sales process and what you guys do to help sort of systematize it, for lack of a better word.
No, it's in September, that was our systems package we rolled out, was the sales systems package with the policies and procedures, flow charts to help you get clear on from first contact to follow up, like all the way from A to Z. But the second part is the actual sales conversation. And we have an amazing sales coach on the team. Theophon McKenzie's been 16, 18 years or so as a sales coach, helping entire teams, helping individuals. And the big philosophy is it's taking the salesiness out of a sales conversation. It's teaching people to just have a conversation again. Dig in with the needs assessment, figure out what they need, and then see if it's the right fit of, what's their budget for paying for this? What's their, do you have the right decision maker in front of you? Then you do your presentation. There's never a close. If you do all the proper steps ahead of time, you get in front of the objections and you never have maybes. You have a yes or a no at the end of the conversation. So you're not chasing after clients. You're really clear. You have an honest conversation and the client gets to choose. And most of the time they'll be ready to move forward with you and do it. But we've now trained up dozens and dozens of salespeople, and we do like to have the owner go through the training with the new salesperson so that they both know what's being said and how it happens. And we do a lot of role playing, because part of it is the art of delegation is not just jam it down someone's throat. It's build the person up and build up their confidence and build up your own confidence. They know what the hell they're doing, right? And so with sales, it's building up their confidence, the salesperson, and building up your confidence that they know what they're doing and they're having the right conversation. So it's a lot of fun. In about 6 weeks, you can have a fully trained salesperson. It's awesome. And then it's the management component, keeping the team, using the KPIs to make that a fun, almost gamify it a little so that everybody's tuned in. That comes this next level of, managing the sales team. But
I have not fully bought into the concept of the non-attorney salesperson concept, but a lot of our friends have. We've had a guest on like Mario Godoy who's crushed it with it. One of the downsides that I have seen and noticed is that you invest so much in building that person up that when there's turnover in that spot, it seems to really set firms back. How do you deal with that? Because I get it. You can create the dragon. How do you then replace the dragon in short order when somebody gives 2 weeks?
That's called systems. And it's called having that whole like we do the 6-part training. We record every one of them. We give them to our clients and say, this now goes in your training folder. And the role playing and the how to get in front of objections, and you create an entire training process. So when either A, you're busy as heck and you need a second person right away, or your person had a family emergency and had to walk out the door, right? You're ready to quickly train someone up that within 1 to 2 weeks, they're fully trained and ready to go. That's what you want. You want to build the systems. Sorry, I keep hitting there, but that's what I mean, I literally came back from a vacation in my law firm and there was a brand new woman that came up and introduced herself at the door. And she was my new paralegal. It was day 3 and she was already being profitable for me because she loved all of our systems. She loved all the trainings and she was able to hit the ground running. So yes, I mean, it takes time to build, it takes some sweat equity, but the long-term benefits are just astronomical.
I just had an epiphany for both you guys. given, look, it's not like we don't have systems. We have manuals, we have trainual, we are, probably not ahead of the curve, but sort of trying to stay atop the curve at least. Do you interview for people that will play ball with the systems? I don't think we've ever really focused on that. Talk to me about how you interview for employees to get rid of the people, because I part of my uphill battle with that stone is I have people that, I'm like, hey, you have 3 monitors. One of your monitors should have your manual on it that you can continuously update, and there's no buy-in. So I assume this starts during the interview process. Talk to me about how do you find the right people to fit into that?
Oh, I think it starts before that. We're a big fan of how you market your company to attract top talent. So we go all the way back to like the stuff you're putting out there in the social media on your website today is what's going to attract the rock stars in January through July of next year. So, and we show that we are a team-driven culture. We are a KPI-driven culture. We love our policies and procedures that make things run faster. The right people will resonate and want to come work with us. The wrong people that don't like those systems, they don't even bother applying.
But there's a much more nuanced line. You can get somebody who likes all of that, but doesn't buy in as much to, wants more. The rock stars want more autonomy. Jay, I'd love you to talk about this.
Well,
how do you want the rock star, but then you tell them, do it exactly as I want you to do it?
I feel like you're having flashbacks to our conversation the other day, Seth, where we talked about whether you hire an older lawyer who does it their way or a first person fresh out of law school. This is something that we fought about the other day. So I think he's just having flashbacks and that type of thing. But Seth, I mean, and actually this brings up a good point, right? Because Kristen, your old organization preaches this when you're putting out a job ad. As far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong. You need to send it in Arial, 14-point font, FedEx it to this address, make sure that the name on it says this. They have these really crazy, in my opinion, rules for submitting an application to a job. Because my friends who've used that are like, well, I put out this, I got 200 submissions and nobody followed my crazy rules, and I'm looking for somebody who can follow my crazy rules. I don't go that far, but we start talking about systems day one of the ad placement, where like, you will be good in this job if you like having a system to follow and will always follow that system. You'll be good in this job if you can create systems. We put those into the job descriptions for our own firm so that people know that. And we talk about that stuff starting in our very first interview and go throughout. So, Kristen, maybe you could speak to that. Do you find that the whole submit your resume on parchment paper, does that work, or does it just, you use a quill pen with the blood of a newborn? I mean, it just seems to me like that's overkill for what it is, but some people swear by it, and you've seen both sides, so maybe you can speak to that for us.
I'm definitely more in that camp because I've had it work so phenomenally well for me. Several of my absolute A+ superstar employees in my law firm went through that and said, I read that ad and I knew you were the right fit. It just resonates. So that is part of the 5-step hiring process we use. Not as extreme. I mean, I think, and it also depends on the type of position. Sometimes I think you be more creative. If you're hiring a marketing assistant, Seth, you ask them to do a video of themselves and post it to unlisted to YouTube and do, all the whatevers, so you can see, do they know what the hell they're doing, right? Like that's a quick way to see, does this person have some skills, or are they a train wreck I don't need to worry my time with? So, Jay, I do like doing some elements of that. It just depends on the position. And I think I've had a lot of experience where associates are like, screw this, I'm not applying if you make me jump through all these hurdles. I'm more mature than that. I don't need to do those little games. Yeah, so I think there's some ego that goes there too.
No, that's exactly right. Because to me, it's one thing if you're asking somebody to do something, Jay, with a video once you've gotten through the first step. I've been on the other side, as you guys have, applying for things. I remember going, back in when it was newspaper days, right? And there were so many things that weren't even jobs out there. There were so many things that were multi-level marketing. right? There's so many scams. It might be a recruiter that people are so, their time. To me, I want people in my funnel. Sort of like when it comes to the law firm, right? If somebody possibly had a DUI in Connecticut, do you really want them jumping through hoops, or do you want them raising their hand? You may have hoops once you know that they had a DUI. You want to make sure that there's money, that they're going to be somebody who's not going to torment your lawyers, et cetera. But to me, it's so hard to get qualified candidates in that have all the skill sets you want. I'd rather have everybody raise their hand. Now, maybe I'm losing something because your people who come from day one say, wow, I love that the culture of that. Maybe it's an A/B test with, you could keep your ad out there for somebody who loves jumping through hoops. But to me, even with that wide net, I'd rather have the person in the net and then figure out who within the net works. But I now have sort of had this light bulb moment. I'll put one out there to A/B test it. I just can't imagine you get enough volume to make it meaningful. It's one thing if you need one person, but we're hiring 8 people a quarter. If I was waiting for that one diamond in the rough to jump through those hoops, I'm not sure I'd be able to hit my hiring quota.
So don't think of it creating such a high hurdle. Make it easy. Like, I'm your next rock star blank in the subject line of the email, or a certain phrase in the resume. Listen, if they can't follow instructions when they're applying for the job, screw that. Don't waste your time. Like, they're never going to get better.
To me, I would rather have that be step 2, that first step to know, because there's so much spam out there that I'm going to lose good people. They're like, I don't know if this is legit or not. And that the idea that you're sort of like telling people that they have to assume, because look, you're a good person. Like, you run a real business, that you're looking to hire people. How many people out there with ads never make a hire? If we took 100 ads and applied to them, it's like the LinkedIn opportunities. How many people want 10 minutes of your time to speak to you on LinkedIn? If you spoke to all of them, you could shut down your business and just speak to all these people. Right. So how do you know what's worth your time? You're not go jumping through hoops with that. You're like, if I said, hey, Kristen, I think this is a great person for you to speak to. Yeah. You might take the time for it, but like, somebody cold emails you, are you going to say yes to? And to me, that I'm the flip side of that, which is, I don't want to be that person. Here, give me 10 minutes of your time to apply for my job. Push a button. Okay, you're in. You're a paralegal who's done everything I need. Now I'm going to give you a skills test and see whether or not you have an attention to detail. But the idea that you're sort of standing on ceremony, anyway, that's just I'll get off my soapbox. Jay,
go ahead, Jay.
No, I want to watch this fight, so I'm going to sit back. Kristen, go at
Seth, I'm going to keep pushing. I think you're just laying down and letting them waste your and your staff's precious time. Why go through 80 people and have to waste time looking at resumes or whatever, when at least whittle it down to 20? I'm not saying make it like the most egregious first hurdle, and I agree you do the testing later. But you know what? Okay, so one quick story. One of our workshops coming up is the Paris Experience Workshop in April in 2021 in Paris. It's for business owners that are all about scalability. So it's 5 days, every day in Paris, we're doing a different training and experience. So one day I'm taking them to a Michelin star restaurant. Michelin star, it takes a lot of freaking work to get a Michelin star. Guess what? You can lose it in an instant. If one server drops a fork when the inspector is there, your Michelin star is freaking gone. They will take it away from you. So with that on the line, can you even imagine how picky they are about hiring nothing but the top level, the most amazing employees out there, right? Like, they set the standard and they say, if you are not of this caliber, do not bother applying. Do not even waste our time. And guess what? Michelin star restaurants get the top of the top of the top because they set that expectation really, really high. It is like hell to get a job in a Michelin star restaurant, but it's because the stakes are so big. So I would encourage you, start thinking like a Michelin star restaurant. You set the expectation of, I want the best of the best. Don't waste my time if you're going to be dropping forks and glasses and whatever. So I would say step it up. I would say at least have that first tier. You're going to get a better quality pool yes, smaller, but a better quality. And then you're not wasting your team's time going through and filtering through that.
And again, I'm just to play it out, I don't disagree. Like, I get that you can get good people doing that. Let's using the 80-20 rule, 20% are going to play ball with you, let's say. 80% are like out there like, what the hell is this? And especially, look, right now at this moment in time, paid Indeed is where we're getting most of our talent from if it's not an internal referral. Craigslist built our firm. We're not getting that ROI right now. We're not, LinkedIn maybe for a higher level executive, but not for like, mid-level admin. So I'm stuck with paid Indeed. I don't know how much creativity you could get. To me, I'm paying per clicks. And I don't disagree. Like I've systematized all our resumes go to India overnight. They're sifted so that our internal US-based HR person is given sort of like the short list to look at. So again, I get there's a lot of wasted time in the process. The question is that part of the game where, are we giving up too many people that may just think you love it? And if you get those raving fans and that 20% that want the Michelin bar experience, great. But are there 80% of the people out there who, if one out of those 20% is a great hire and there are 4 other potentials out there, am I taking too small of a sample size, where it's sweat equity? It takes per people, and not everybody has an HR person inside to do this. Yours is going to give you a lot less to look at, but you're going to know where the cream is quicker.
I think you gotta test it. Go back to the A/B testing. I think you're gonna find that you're gonna get some great people if you craft that ad and you really talk about your expectations and again, make that first step of instruction very small, but it tells you a lot if they can follow instructions. It's also going to tell you whether down the road, if they're going to just kind of do it their way, which is not the way you want it done.
And I'll put something on your side of the scale, which is now that we don't have offices in major markets and we're going virtual, when you have, like for you, if you're hiring a coach nationally, you can be a little more pedantic in your ad. For me, there are only so many personal injury pre-lit paralegals on the market at any time. Like, they're precious commodities, so that I don't want to alienate anybody. While I might be able to do that, I will review and look at anything and figure it out, because to me, I'm going to be able to. We had Jack from Clio on talked about sort of backdoor reference checks. And the idea is I'm going to be able to tell who that person is and whether they could work based on their work history in the market. I'm less concerned with that. But as I think about the fact that we are now expanding our collections team to the rural South, where like what we want to pay here is looked upon askance, and there is like a rock star salary. As we start opening up that geography, I'm like, okay, I'll play, I'll check it out and come back to you. You've been right more than you've been wrong on this stuff. So I'm willing to listen.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things that you have to recognize as well about this type of thing is it comes down to the position that you're filling. It comes down to the footprint of where you're going. And like Seth says, there's only a certain number of people in the area, but we're all sort of stepping away from our office. And so now you can hire somebody in Tulsa, Oklahoma to answer your phones. And maybe that is, but then again, and this is something that we have to talk on another day.
Because we got a heart out for Kristen. We're gonna have to bring her back.
I know but here's the question I have, and I'm going to tease this up. How do you maintain culture in a office that is separate? Because we ran into some problems, and we're still running into problems in my office where, because they don't see each other working, they think they're the only one working hard. And that's been something that I've had to really focus on over the last 60 days or so, as tempers are starting to flare. So we'll tease that for maybe, Kristen, we can get you back in a couple of weeks, and we talk about managing remote people.
Craziness. I'm on my reunion planning call for college, and there's a guy running it who's running the UPenn 30th reunion. And I look at the thing, he's executive at 5:15. Turns out there's an actual company out there building systems to help companies do touches for their remote employees. Unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
It's already out there.
It's a changing world, but it's good for us. It's good to be able to use so much more talent, so many different places, but you got to be intentional about building your culture. I'll just end with that. And yes, I'd be happy to come back, talk culture.
Absolutely.
So
Well, thank you
Awesome.
so much. You've been inspirational and helped me along my journey, and can't wait to see where up leveling takes you. This is really exciting stuff.
And Kristen, I'm going to reach out to your
awesome.
assistant and book you another slot with us in a couple of weeks so we can keep this conversation going.
Excellent, guys. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. I always love talking systems. And
Thank you so much.
Seth, you can do it. You can do it. All right. Bye,
All right.
guys.
Thank you. Bye, guy.
I'm a boss chick, yeah. I'm a boss lady, yeah. I be calling shots, yeah. I be getting money, yeah. I'm a boss chick, yeah. I'm a boss lady, yeah. I be getting money.
Wow, Seth, I could have probably talked another 2 hours with Kristen. That was some really, really good stuff.
No, I love it. She's one of those people that sort of like makes you think. She forces you to say, hey, if you tried it this way, what would happen? A lot of us get stuck in our ways. We've been successful with our ways. But she's like, hey, can I, she's not an absolutist. That's what I love about her. She's going to give you what's out there, what's worked for her and how she's scaled law firms, and definitely things I'm going to take and beta test for us.
One of the things that we talked about with her was that client happiness coordinator and reaching out and touching your existing clients. And I remember it must have been this summer when we had Ken Hardison on, and he was somebody who's built a number of practices. And we asked, I forget if it was you or it was me. It was like, if you were starting over a practice again, what's the one thing you would take? And he goes, give me my list. Give me my list of 1,000 clients, and I'll build a business off of that. And I think that's something that we have to recognize. And, both you and I have a tendency to skew digital, right? Because it worked for us, especially as you were starting out in criminal defense, and my whole practice is criminal defense for the most part. That's an area where a lot of people don't necessarily talk, but I still get, half of my business by way of referral. And if I can keep touching those people, it's going to turn into more business coming into our firm. Or if it's not criminal business, it's that personal injury case that comes in that I could refer out and maybe get something on the back end. So I definitely think having somebody hitting those touch points that Kristen talks about is important. Are you guys thinking about doing something like that in your
We
firm?
do. As I mentioned, we have a person, and we've tweaked it. It's again, I've struggled with, given Blue Shark's involvement, what role I need on the marketing side. But what I have focused on has been exactly that. We hired somebody out of the Four Seasons who was trained in their customer service. The idea is to touch base with clients throughout cases, but then to check in at the end of a case. Quality control. We've implemented a bunch of surveys, a la Andrew Finkelstein had talked about during the mastermind experience. And we basically have taken a human being with great customer service background to check on clients throughout the case, and then to make sure that the offboarding. And like there are pain points. We get it in both criminal, we do it in PI and everywhere else. In PI, for example, the big pain point is we may settle a case, but that check isn't going to hit for quite a while with liens being resolved. And that period, we've seen some huge raving fans turn more murky because of that delay. And again, I can't magically make the delay go away. There's certain obstacles in business right now, but if there's somebody talking to them along the way, I can ameliorate that pain and try to keep them as raving fans and sort of anticipate it. We know that's going to be a pain point. Let's add some additional, some extra touches to that process that aren't. Our paralegals are said, hey, there's an update. I'm telling you something. There's no update other than we're waiting. And that's where I'm actually layering on this non-reactive person as the sort of the concierge to walk them on that outboarding process to try to keep the person who's as happy the day we tell them what they're going to get to the day they actually get the check.
Yeah, I think that's really important. One of the things that we did recently after the Finkelstein show is that we actually created a survey that goes out at the conclusion of our intake process. And so we're getting a 5-question survey back at the tail end of the intake process. And it's allowed us, number one, to know that our intake team really does a good job. And it allows me to go back to them and say, hey, I'm getting this feedback. And they love hearing that because it makes them feel good about what they're doing. But it also allows us to catch some little problems with, I couldn't open the PDF on my phone to sign it because it said the boxes were too small. So we can immediately go out and make those changes so that's not a problem. And it's not something that necessarily would have come to me, because the client may have just said, all right, I'll open on my phone, I'll open on my computer at home when I get there. But we solved that problem by having that survey.
We actually pushed the survey back, a la Andrew's recommendation, to a month, because not only do we want intake, which is important, but it's those early weeks where you lose people. When you lose somebody, it's generally not 6 months into representation, whether it be criminal or PI. It's generally, they're signed up. There's sort of like, hey, it's not my problem anymore. But A, there are other people chirping in their ear. And B, very often there may be a gap based on workflows within the firm between when lawyers speak to them. There may be a first talk and they're all excited, but if nothing is happening in a criminal case for a number of weeks, they're left there by themselves. So that's one of the reasons I want to make sure that we don't have any sort of lapse in communication. This is my checks and balances, that 1 month point, which I think both for PI and for criminal, probably other practice areas, is the most risky time for losing a client. We don't lose many, but I would like to make sure we don't lose any.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I've done for 20 years, and I go back and I think about how we used to manually do it, but I have a series of 10 letters that goes out to clients basically every other or every third day in the first month of representation. We're overwhelming them with information, and to the point where a moment doesn't go by where they're not getting an update from us in that first month, so that they feel, okay, these people really are communicating with me.
Have you
And it's
added
basically
any interactive components to those letters? So rather than, do you have any questions? And that way they could even send them back right there. Most people will say no. Is there anything we could do more, like using that letter as the survey, so you don't need an additional touch point, but rather just having it more of a digital conversation?
I like that. I just saw some new software, and I know we talked about software a little while ago, but I want to reach out to our friend Joey Vitale, because he's using Video Ask to create video messages back and forth to his clients as he onboards them, and something that I want to look into. I haven't used it. I don't know if any of our listeners have. If you have, certainly leave me a comment down below, but I'm going to beta test that this week and see if you could actually send these conversations with clients and allow them to respond with a video question back to you.
No, I'm definitely in the market for that. I'd love to know what is available and what's recommended, what the pros and cons of the different ones are, because I'd love to have our people be able to send quick messages, because I think it does something. It's the personal touch, but it hopefully, if it answers the question, it can avoid an inbound call, which is also great.
That's also great. And one of the things that we do, just, as I'll throw this out there to people, is that after our intake people hang up the phone, so we have a sales lawyer who does that part of the job. Once she is done, she actually, when she's putting in her notes, she triggers an automated SMS message that goes out, which includes a YouTube video where it says basically, hi, I'm Teresa. I just got off the phone with you. If you have any other questions, please give me a call back, that type of thing. And I just looked at it, and since the beginning of the year when we instituted it, it's been viewed over 1,000 times. I mean, so people are watching the stuff that we send them. So it's definitely, people are expecting a lot more from technology-wise than a lot of lawyers are willing to give. And I think if you can embrace it, you can actually, make the hurdles a lot smaller for you to keep people happy and keep people hiring you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we went long again, so it is what it is. So here's the question I have for you, Seth, before we end it. Next Tuesday, a couple of days from now, we're going to have a show. But it's also a very big day in American history, because it's the day, some would say, we can overthrow our government every 4 years. So we've got Election Day next Tuesday. Should we do a live show on Tuesday, or should we run a best of show because so many people are going to be out at the polls? What do you think we should do? You want to do another live show on Tuesday?
I think
to give people something to watch?
We'll find something, because look, with every passing interview, we come up with the next topic, and I have a few more percolating, so I have no doubt that we'll have something by then.
Sounds like a plan to me. Plus, if you're waiting on a poll line, you can tune in and listen to our show while you're staying there, and maybe share it with the people online with you if they want to grow their law firm, depending on
I would like to think our audience is savvy enough to vote early if that's allowed in your state. So,
I've already voted, so the die has been cast for me, that's for sure. But okay, so with that, we're going to leave you today. I am Jay Ruane, CEO of FirmFlex, as well as Ruane Attorneys, He is Seth Price over there, CEO of Blue Shark Digital, as well as Price Benowitz down DC, Maryland, Virginia. We are Maximum Growth Life. Thank you for being with us again. Thank you to Kristen David for being with us. Just another great show. I'm really looking forward to Tuesday, and we'll have a lot to talk about then. That's for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next week brings us, Seth.
Sounds great.
All right, man. We'll see you later. Take it easy. Bye for now.